Welcome to the So You Missed Church podcast. We are happy to have you here with us today. Happy Monday to you. This is Clint Daly, and I'm hoping that maybe if you missed church this week, maybe you couldn't go, maybe you didn't go, or maybe you did go and you got a lot out of it. But either way, we can still help you get your week started in a positive way. Okay, so Dorothy and Shirley are two elderly widows living in a Florida retirement community. And they notice a new elderly man has moved in, and he's just kind of keeping to himself. And Shirley tells her friend Dorothy, hey, you know I'm very shy. Why don't you go over to him at the pool and maybe find out a little about him? He just looks so lonely, and I'm so lonely. Maybe we would hit it off together. So Dorothy agrees, and later that day at the pool, she walks over to him, and she sits down and she says, excuse me, sir. I hope I'm not prying, but my friend is very lonely, and we noticed that since you have arrived, you seem to kind of be by yourself. You're pretty lonely too. And we were just kind of wondering, what your background is. And he says, of course I'm lonely. I've actually spent the past 20 years in prison. I was recently finally released, and I moved here. And Dorothy says, you're kidding. If you don't mind my asking, why were you in prison? And he says, well, actually, to be honest, I was in prison for killing my third wife. I strangled her, but in my defense, it was just a terrible accident. Oh my goodness, Dorothy says, that's so awful. Well, not to be nosy, but what happened to your second wife? And the man said, well, to be completely honest with you, she was found in our home dead after mysteriously falling down the stairs, but they never found out who did it, and it remains unsolved. And Dorothy says, well, that is certainly strange. And if I might press on, what happened to your first wife? And the man said, well, actually, we had a fight. And then, I don't know, somehow later she fell off a building. It was another unsolved mystery. And Dorothy says, oh my, that is tragic. And then she turns to her friend on the other side of the pool and she says, good news, Dorothy, he's single. Hey, loneliness can cause us to make some very poor choices in our life. Today, I want to go back to the Old Testament story of Moses, who was called by God to lead the people of Israel. And it sounds like a great job, right? You're the leader. You are the guy. But Moses didn't want the job. In fact, in Exodus 3, God appears to Moses in the burning bush, and God tells him he wants him to lead his people out of Egypt. Hey, that's pretty flattering, right? Out of the entire nation, God calls on you. You got the job. But Moses' reaction in verses 10 to 13, he says, how do I carry these people alone? Moses basically says, thanks, God, but please pick someone else. And it's interesting because there is a word in the text in Hebrew, and it is lo tov. And it means not good. And that word is only used a few times in the Torah. It is used here when Moses says it would not be good for him to do this job. It is used back in Genesis when God says it is not good for a man to be alone, so I will make him a companion. And it is used later in Exodus when Moses' father-in-law Jethro tells Moses that his method of judging the Israelites is unsustainable. Moses was trying to handle every single dispute by himself. It was exhausting him and the people he was serving. And his father-in-law's advice was, hey, delegate. Appoint some other people. Appoint some capable people to handle those smaller matters and allow yourself to focus on more significant issues. But he told him, it's not good that you're living that way. Well, like I said, lo tov means not good. And it seems to be a sad and terrible human condition. It is not good. It is not healthy physically or spiritually or emotionally. And that word tells us how not only was Moses alone as a leader, he was desperately alone. And it seemed like he was horribly lonely in his struggle to lead the people of Israel. When you think about it, how painful it is to be alone in life. Well, as we are now in November, and we know those yearly holidays are coming quickly, we should consider the loneliness that many of us are feeling. Because we do also know, like I said, loneliness can cause us to make some very poor decisions. There are moments that we feel all alone. You know, if we're lucky, if we're blessed, then hopefully we have someone, a spouse, a family, a friend that helps us feel supported, and we know how much that can lift our spirits and can make us feel part of something. And yet, human loneliness has a very strange aspect to it. And we actually saw it a few years ago during the pandemic. The more we are alone, the more we tend to forget how important it is to be surrounded by those we love. We can actually tend to withdraw even more, to stay in, to stay alone. Hey, there's no risk of being rejected. And so we stay in our own little safe cocoon and we raise barriers around us to protect ourselves. Maybe it's the fear of losing someone that we love. Maybe it is the risk of having a disagreement or a falling out. But we border ourselves off and we keep ourselves isolated. We don't allow ourselves to get too close. After all, if we do, we just might become more vulnerable. But I want to encourage you this week on two different fronts, especially like I said with these holidays coming. First of all, lower those walls. Allow yourself to be surrounded by family, friends, loved ones. It is, like it says in the text, low toe for you to be alone. Accept the invites. Be involved. Step out of that comfort zone and allow yourself to be immersed in that community with family, friends, loved ones. And secondly, I encourage you to reach out to someone in your life that might need that support, that might need that involvement. Invite them. Interact with them. Make them feel supported. Help them feel loved and valued, because we never know the isolation or the pain that some people might be carrying. We never know the poor decisions or mental outlook that could be taking place in their mind. And we never know how much our efforts could change someone's outlook completely. You just might be changing someone's life. Hey, remember, you can always contact us at youmisschurch@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to us. We would love to be a source of encouragement to you. You can follow us on Facebook or X at YouMissChurch, and you can subscribe to the podcast pretty much anywhere podcasts are hosted or over on YouTube. We would encourage you to share the podcast with someone that you might think would benefit from listening to it. We would appreciate that so much. Hey, I want to wish you all a happy Monday, and I hope you have a great week.